Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my newly rebranded podcast. Introducing, presented by LOL Comedy Club, I give you the Spencer Gilbard Show.
You're listening to the Spencer Gilbard Show.
Well, to anyone who thought Kamala was gonna win,
you exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
yeah, you exist in all the context in which you live and what came before you. Would you fall out of a coconut tree? There's literally zero way Kamala Harris could have won in the context in which she found herself this election. People are wondering, did Joe Biden drop out too late? No shit, Joe Biden dropped out too late. It was after the first debate. That's way too fucking late to drop out. The debates are to help the audience, to help the country decide who they want to vote for, not if the person can even fucking run in the first place. Not to find out if the candidate can complete a sentence. Not for the parties to decide if this candidate is really their final answer and they want to lock it in. And Kamala really had the nerve to ask Trump to do a third debate. He was like, I'm good. I'm really, really good. He was like, if I never debate anyone else for the rest of my life, I could die happy. Kamala was like, what, are you kidding? I just got here. How about best 2 out of 3? Trump was like, please just everyone vote right now. Just put me out of my misery. As if Trump doesn't enjoy campaigning, though. He lives for that shit. He lives for talking about how big his crowd is. He lives for the applause, like Lady Gaga says. I think he would actually enjoy the life of a touring stand-up comedian more than he would enjoy the life of president. Maybe he'll realize that in 4 years and embark on his comedy career. And he can have Tony Hinchcliffe open for him and tell his Puerto Rican garbage joke all over the country. Maybe that's how they own the libs. You know, if Trump lost, we would have had to blame it all on Tony Hinchcliffe's joke. Otherwise, Trump probably would have blamed the Jews somehow. He was already trying to blame us Jews for making him lose before the election even happened. Before they even knew the results, he was already trying to blame us. He said it's going to be the Jews' fault because they're voting for Kamala. He was like, any Jewish person who doesn't vote for me will be personally responsible if I lose. Let's listen to that quote.
But I will put it to you very simply and gently. I really haven't been treated right, but you haven't been treated right because you're putting yourself in great danger, and the United States hasn't been treated right. So if I don't win this election, and I've been very good, you know, they say Trump's been right about everything. I've been right about a lot of things. Even Ted will admit that. I've been right about a lot of things. A lot of things that a lot of people said, no, that won't happen, but a lot of bad things happened, and some good things I've been right about too. And I only want to be, so I'm not going to call this as a prediction, but in my opinion, the Jewish people would have a lot to do with a loss. If I'm at 40%, if I'm at 4%, think of it. That means 60% are voting for Kamala.
I mean, think about it, man. No, Donald Trump doesn't say man. I mean, think about it. If I'm at 40% and she wins with 60%, do the math, okay? Jews are supposed to be good at math, right? Do the math. It's all your fault because I lost. Get it? That's actually what he said. Let's crunch some numbers really quickly. If I lose because I get 40% of the vote and Kamala wins because she got 60% of the vote, whose fault is it? If you guessed the Jews, you are correct. Jewish people are only 2.4% of the entire U.S. population. So even if the entire Jewish population voted for Kamala, it's not even like we could even have an effect on the result unless it was 2.4% away. Unless it was that close. Even if the election was that close, it probably wouldn't have an effect because I think most Jews live in New York or LA, which are deep, deep blue, 10,000 leagues under the sea, deep blue states, where it's like any vote is just a drop of water in the ocean because the state is, for all intents and purposes, automatically going to the Democrats for the Electoral College. But Trump was like, I don't want to call this a prediction necessarily because I might be wrong. And I don't want to be wrong. But if I lose, it would be mostly the Jews' fault. But don't quote me on that. It's not a prediction. It's more of like a preemptive scapegoating. Thank God Trump won. It's way funner to do an impression of him than an impression of Kamala. My impression of Kamala is just laughing, which is not fun. Where's the fun in that? It's not interesting at all. It's just... it's just a terrible, terrible time. For you and I both. Trump is way, way, way more fun. And I knew Trump was gonna win ever since his assassination attempt. His first one. The second one was like, okay, maybe actually everyone wants him dead. But after the first one, I was like, oh man, MAGA mob is gonna be turning out for Trump this year. They might even go early to vote because there was an assassination attempt on their mans. Even though Republicans think early voting is voter fraud. After the second one, I was like, damn, he might actually not make it to election day. Dude might actually get taken out when he couldn't even go golfing without being shot at. I was like, this dude is going to get killed unless he stays indoors until the election. Like, for real, just like statistically speaking at this point. But let's be real, Trump didn't win the election because he got shot at. Trump won the election because he cosplayed as a McDonald's employee and a garbage man. Duh. That was the winning strategy, cosplaying odd jobs. That's the lesson to take if you're a politician. Dress up as a fucking landscaper, and then you got that shit in the bag. And I'm not talking about leaves. I'm talking about the election. Trump had the better cosplays. I can't even remember one thing that Kamala cosplayed as the entire campaign. To be fair, she only ran like the second half, and she really kind of walked it. She took days off. That's what that means. She took a lot of days off. And she did like 4 interviews, 3 of which were podcasts. Man, I better have both presidential campaigns on this podcast next year. Next election. That's my goal. And if it doesn't happen, I'm blaming the Jews. If I believed the media, the fake news that Donald Trump was actually Hitler, I'd be really fucking scared right now that he was reelected. Why is the fake news trying to scare the Jews so much? What the fuck? If he's not actually Hitler, don't say that, please. It's like a false alarm. It's like the boy who cried Hitler. The news station that cried Hitler. Obviously, Trump is way worse, though. He's a weirdo, right? He's weird. Oh, yeah, he's just weird. Man, that's even worse. Like, I can live with a dictator, but I could not deal with having a president who is weird. That's where I draw the line. That'd just be embarrassing. I just can't. Trump also probably won the election since Joe Biden called all of his supporters garbage. People might have, like, taken offense to that. You know? Just, like, a little bit, maybe. Let's listen to that quote.
Donald Trump has no character. He doesn't give a damn about the Latino community. He's failed businessman. He only cares about the billionaire friends he has and accumulating wealth for those at the top. He says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Give me a break. He wants to do away with the birthright citizenship. Who the hell has said that in the last 100 years? And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done, everything we've been.
This man can really just not finish a sentence. I didn't know there was another Puerto Rico in Delaware. That's crazy. He was like, Trump supporters are literal garbage, and Donald Trump needs to stop talking badly about people. He was like, haven't you ever heard if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything, you piece of garbage? Now I'm going to Puerto Rico. I mean bed. It's way past my bedtime. It's probably a good decision that Joe Biden dropped out, even though it probably wasn't his decision. He probably still lost Kamala Harris the election, and he wasn't even on the ticket. It really is all Joe Biden's fault that the Democrats lost, because he's the one that chose Kamala Harris, and after choosing her, probably didn't let her make any actual decisions. And then she still got blamed for all the problems in his administration. And he made us all watch him in the first debate. He wasted all of our time. Maybe you can't blame it all on Joe, though. I mean, Kamala Harris still didn't visit the border until, like, the end of the campaign. Didn't she compare her not going to the border to her not going to Europe? Let's listen to that clip.
Okay. Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
I mean, that answer is why Kamala lost. Period. She literally said, we have been to the border. We have been to the border. We have been to the border. To which fucking Lester Holt said, you haven't been to the border. To which she said, I also haven't been to Europe. What's your fucking point? Maybe the president of the United States should have been to Europe as well as the border. But let's stick with the border for now because it's attached to the country. And there's like millions of illegal immigrants coming across it. I mean, wasn't she distinctly put in charge of the border? Why would she not go visit the border? And why hasn't she been to Europe? I've been to Europe. And I'm like a loser. How has Kamala Harris never been anywhere in Europe? She has, however, been to Canada because she's Canadian. If that's a red flag to you. At least she lived in Canada between the age of 12 through high school. Very much like a traitor to the United States of America would. Live in America's hat. Kamala Harris, more like Canada Harris. President of Canada. All right, you guys. Thank you for listening. Congratulations to Donald Trump on the win, and congratulations to the rest of us on being deported. Peace.
You're listening to the Spencer Gilbard Show.